She went under the wheels.
How affected.
Welcome to Under the Wheels. I'm Matthew.
I'm Gabe.
And today we are going to be talking about one of the most controversially named movies in cinema history. We are talking about, I guess it depends on when you saw it, because when I saw it, it was Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn. I have no idea how the movie got out that far with that name, but
I always hate that, like title and then in parentheses is a super duper long subtitle.
like Birdman.
Birdman, parentheses, or the virtue of ignorance. Or the unexpected virtue of ignorance. Because you gotta stuff as many words into the parenthetical title as possible.
Yeah, nothing says pretentious Oscar Beatty / auteuristic movie like having a very simple title followed by a very complex title.
Yeah.
That's just like, it's just like, oh, just give him the Oscar now. And by the way, we're masturbating while doing it. It's fine.
So you're what you're telling me is Birds of Prey or blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
AKA,
the Fantabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn.
AKA Harley Quinn : Birds of Prey. AKA Live Die Repeat : Edge of Tomorrow is going to win an Oscar because of its stupid title.
It was going to win an Oscar, and then it changed titles to Harley Quinn : Birds of Prey, which still doesn't really make much sense. But we'll get into the reasoning why that movie is kind of an interesting production shit show, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But before we do that, dude, what have you been watching this week?
Not much. The only thing I saw other than Harley Quinn was The Help.
First time seeing it?
Yeah, first time seeing it.
Okay.
It's like a low witness, I guess. Like, it's a very standard movie. If that makes any sense.
It's certainly a movie.
It's definitely a movie, and it's like every other movie ever, except it's really long. I didn't realize it's like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it is really long.
I kept checking the timestamp on it, on like Amazon. I'm like, Jesus, there's like 30 minutes left.
It's like, wow, it feels like the movie's wrapping up. Like, this person had their comeuppance, that person had their comeuppance, that person had their comeuppance.
Like, I thought the whole plot was resolved. God. It's like, there's another 20 minutes. Like,
I know.
No, why?
Yeah. I'm trying to remember, because it did feel long.
Yeah. It's just, the other thing when I say it's like, it's a movie that feels like a lot of other movies is that there's so many very standard story beats that just feel like shoehorned in.
The boyfriend is the one for me.
Yes, exactly. The boyfriend makes no sense in the plot whatsoever. And like, I feel like he's only there to set up that scene, like at the third act turning point when our heroine is at her lowest point, where he's like, you're a loose cannon cop, Skeeter. Hand in your badge or whatever. I don't remember the scene that well.
Hand in your women's rights, Skeeter.
But it's that scene. It like he breaks up with her because she's too headstrong and she needs to rein herself in or whatever. Who cares? So it's like
that's the bigger problem.
Yeah, well, it's just like that scene is in every movie ever, and it needs to stop because it's like. I saw this with my girlfriend and we were talking about it because I would crack up at certain moments like that where it's like this really heavy-handed, like the music swells, someone starts quoting an 80s cop show, even though this movie takes place in the 60s. And like, I was saying it's just like, the movie's trying so hard to make you feel a certain way in those moments that I can't help but crack up because it's so heavy-handed. Whereas like, ideally you want it to make you feel that way without you consciously realizing what it's doing, you know?
Right.
There's the other moment where Alice and Janney, it's like the flashback where she fires their maid, who, I don't know if it's the actress or the way the character is written, but like Constantine or whatever the maid's name is, the really old one, she's like the most egregiously stereotypical, like magic mammy ever. At least like she leans way too much into that for a movie that's supposed to be like kind of woke-ish, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, the scene where she fires her, again, it's so insanely over the top because the music is like da-na-na-na-na-na, and there's like the bitchy lady from the Daughters of America or whatever, who always has her chin tucked into her neck and is like staring menacingly up at people all the time, with this like scowl on her face. It's like, you know how Ian McDermott does, like, I think someone counted like 6 or 7 evil head turns when he does the Darth Plagueis scene in Revenge of the Sith? This is like the female equivalent of that. Every line of dialogue and every gesture is done with like this kind of like head down, eyes looking up, scowl of like, I'm a bitch. I'm very hateable as a character, and I'm going to say and do mean things. Here comes another one!
If you strike me down, Allison Janney! It's funny that you mentioned that because I barely remember that character. Like, I remember that scene was emotional because Allison Janney felt, if I'm not mistaken, the character felt like she had to fire the nanny. Is that right?
Well, so, yeah, exactly. She didn't, because she actually really likes the nanny and the nanny's daughter, or the maid and the maid's daughter, but she felt compelled to fire them by social pressure.
Right.
And feels really guilty about it later because, you know, they were never able to reconcile afterwards. So, like, the rest of the scene outside of the flashback is really emotional, but the flashback is ridiculous. Speaking of ridiculous flashbacks, the other flashback with the older maid, where she's giving, like, stereotypical, like, Stephen King magic black person advice to... like Emma Stone playing a high schooler, where it's just like, it just looks so weird. It's just Emma Stone in pajamas, like with kind of bizarre body language to signal that she's supposed to be 15 or whatever. Like, I couldn't help but crack up at that too. And then I remember when the movie came out, like at that time, when I was younger, I would always get Octavia Spencer and Viola Davis confused.
Right.
But now I've kind of worked out, like, I mean, just seeing them in more movies, you can tell right away who's who just because they don't look at all alike.
Nor do they act similar at all either.
Well, but that's the other thing, is they always play completely different characters. Like, Viola Davis is like serious dramatic actor, like prestige, always delivering like prestigious performances in everything she's in. And then Octavia
like Suicide
Spencer,
Squad.
Yeah, even Suicide Squad, she's acting like the movie is better than it is, you know?
Right.
She's like,
she's trying to bring a level of quality to something that has none.
Yeah, it's like, this movie's a pile of shit, but I'm going to be the Liam Neeson or the Denzel Washington who steps in and gives this some class, you know?
Right.
And then Octavia Spencer just plays a cartoon character in every movie I've seen her in.
It's funny, I was going to say, and Octavia Spencer is basically Al Pacino.
She is! Probably the biggest disappointment I've ever had regarding Octavia Spencer is with the Fishman movie.
The Shape of Water?
Shape of Water, yeah. Because that movie, like, it takes itself so seriously, and I'm like, oh, like, this is, like, an opportunity for Octavia Spencer to, like, show some range and do some cool shit with her role. And she just plays, like, this... She plays a fucking cartoon character in that movie, and I'm like, good lord.
She plays the spunky, like, the spunky black woman. She plays Octavia Spencer.
She plays Octavia Spencer. Well, it's weird because, like, a lot of her roles lean into kind of these retrograde stock characters. Like, she plays the maid from Gone with the Wind in basically everything.
Oh, man.
Or she's doing, like, variations of that. It's like how Clint Eastwood is variations of the boss man and everything. For whatever reason, it seems like Octavia Spencer is stuck doing this. Which is a shame, because I felt like especially Shape of Water is the one film where it just does not make sense to play that character that way. But she does. And I don't know if that's her choice, or if that's Del Toro's choice, or if they collaborated on that bad idea. But...
yeah,
that was a big point of frustration for me with Shape of Water. Anyway, The Help. The Help is a strange movie because it's got some good stuff, like the famous shit pie.
Yes.
Through line is hilarious, and it's always like used well in the movie. I like how Jessica Chastain and Bryce Dallas Howard are both in it, and you can very easily tell them apart, whereas in real life you can't.
I was gonna bring that up. Well, it helps that they dyed Jessica Chastain's hair blonde.
Well, is her hair dyed blonde, or is she just wearing like an insane wig?
She might be wearing a wig. Correction. It helps that Jessica Chastain is blonde in the movie. But yeah,
it also helps that she's like cast completely against type, because she's usually playing very serious characters who are usually wield a lot of power in whatever situation they're in.
Yeah, she usually plays the role. I thought she was going to be the role that Bryce Dallas Howard was.
Huh.
Yeah. But then when the movie started, I was like, oh, yeah, because like she could. It feels like she would do that really well. Now, with that said, Bryce Dallas Howard has played that same character. She played it again in Rocket Man with a British accent. So I thought that Bryce Dallas Howard would only play like the good girl type roles, but no, she likes playing the bad guys. I guess.
Well, I was gonna say, like, if you typecast them, you would almost consider typecasting Bryce Dallas Howard as a sympathetic character and Jessica Chastain as the villain, but they both do well flipped, you know. Yeah. Jessica Chastain plays this very like dumb but well-meaning and very sympathetic character, and then Bryce Dallas Howard is just pure evil.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's a movie filled with a lot of good performances, except for maybe Emma Stone. But even then, she's fine. But like she is the straight man of the movie.
Oh yeah, well she has to. It was weird because I was through the first 20 minutes. You know, it starts off fairly normal until a lot of like the white ladies have their little luncheon or whatever, and they start talking about politics and stuff. And that, plus a couple of the other things that are said and done early on, I'm watching this thing. It's like, man, this movie feels like it takes place on another planet. Like, I don't know if it's just like the views that they have are so alien to the time period we're in now, or if the South is just weird, or if it's both. But I don't know, man. It feels like it takes place in another world, and because of that, it makes sense that you have to have Emma Stone as this very, you know, like Vince Vaughn in every comedy, like just the straight man, some point of relatability, because everything else feels so alien.
Right. Well, and you need that bridge. I mean, you're aware of the controversy this movie faced upon coming out and everything.
Not
like
really. That. I mean, I can probably guess what the controversy was, but I don't know what it was.
Go ahead and guess.
The portrayal of black characters leans too heavily into stereotypes, and Emma Stone is a white savior type of thing.
The second one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In the movie about The Help, which is all about the black maids, like, you know, uprising and finding that they have personality and rights and whatever, is told by Emma Stone. Like, that was the big to-do about the movie, is like, they wouldn't have been able to do anything if not for Emma Stone.
Well, it's the you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't sort of thing. I mean, you can definitely tell that this is a movie about civil rights that was totally made by white people. Like, I didn't know who wrote, directed, or produced it other than Chris Columbus. Like, I don't know any of these names, and I didn't know who wrote the novel, but like, I didn't have to know. I know that you can tell by watching the movie that they're not black, because it feels like a Hollywood made to kind of soothe white anxiety type of movie.
Right. Now, with that said, it works incredibly well. Like, I still thoroughly enjoyed watching it. I maybe because I'm not black, I did not have those issues about the white savior narrative.
I'm not black either, but it's still like I said, you can always guess that is a controversy that's going to spring up.
Yeah.
Because I think it's just so baked into popular culture that anytime like a white person in a movie about race relations does a good thing, they're gonna be like, oh, white savior.
Yeah.
Whether it's
Brad-
justifiable or not. Like, in this, I can kind of see that complaint being legit, depending on your point of view.
I mean, yeah, I'm not saying it's not legitimate. I'm just saying it did not have an effect for me personally.
I gotcha.
You know, like it did not affect my viewing of the movie, even though I was aware of it while watching it.
That's because when I was watching the movie, I just thought to myself, I wonder if this got flack for that when it came out.
Well,
Turns
between
out,
that
yeah,
and
it
Emma
did.
Stone being half Asian in Aloha, you know.
Oh, Lord.
She was just having real, and then not being able to
forgot that
sing
was
in
a
La La
thing.
Land. I know, everyone does, but you got to bring it up every now and then just to remind people that Cameron Crowe made a movie where Emma Stone was half Asian.
That's like, I mean, the worst things have happened, I will say.
Oh, yeah.
Because there is a movie where, and it's like a serious movie. It's a serious romantic drama where Alec Guinness plays a Japanese man who's the love interest of the main character. And it's not even like Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's, where like Mickey Rooney's playing this outrageously offensive caricature. Alec Guinness just isn't even trying. He's just being Alec Guinness, but you're supposed to somehow believe he's Japanese.
What was it? Oh, I had it. I think I lost. Nope, I lost. Oh yeah. Well, just like John Wayne played as Genghis Khan in Genghis Khan, and he applied the Ed Harris School of Acting and just did not try to do a proper inflection, which is it's better than him trying to be like, I Genghis Khan, I conquer your people, but he was just like, I'm Genghis Khan, I'm here to conquer your, and it's like,
You sound exactly like Harrison Ford when you do that.
Oh man, dude, oh god, I love Harrison Ford, he's awesome.
That's what the world needs, is Harrison Ford playing a non-white character. As some awful like troll job.
Oh man, do you think if we could get a petition started, he would actually do it? Like, Harrison Ford is the last king of... Ooh, Harrison Ford as Toranaga in Shogun. There we go. Anjin San. But it'd come into a problem anytime they serve sushi.
Remake The Last King of Scotland with Harrison Ford as the dictator. And Lakeith Stanfield can play James McAvoy's character. Okay, yeah. Harrison Ford is Idi Amin, and then the journalist played by James McAvoy will be Lakeith Stanfield.
That's funny because I was wondering if Lakeith Stanfield is kind of starting to fall into Harrison Ford territory anyway.
In what way?
Because I saw the photograph.
Oh, how was that?
It was all right. It was like it's fine, maybe even a witness. But Lakeith Stanfield mumbles his lines through the entire movie.
Oh, is it like realistic? Is it like Marlon Brando mumbling his lines, or is it like I really wish I wasn't here right now mumbling his lines?
It was more Brando. It was more Brando okay. or like Harrison Ford kind of thing. Like he's engaged in the movie. Like he is trying to have chemistry with Issa Rae. Issa Rae is trying to have chemistry with him, and they're both incredibly charming actors. But I don't know if you buy their chemistry in the movie, which is the problem. It's like they're both incredibly charming, and they're both incredibly charming with each other. Mm-hmm. But the movie has more problems than that. It's like it doesn't really have any stakes. Yeah. Like even the illusion of stakes that they try to put in the movie, they don't really comment on. Mm-hmm. So but like all of the actors are pretty good. It's all pretty charming, but it's just it's fine. It's a fun little romantic movie to go and see on a date. I know I'm really selling it here.
I know you really are. But did you see anything else this week?
I saw Sonic. Okay. I can wait to talk about it if you're going to see it.
I'm kind of curious to see how it is. just because, it's nice to have Jim Carrey back as a complete, like, batshit crazy character in live action, not, some Robert Zemeckis abomination.
Jim Carrey as motion captured Jim Carrey. Okay, so I'll wait to say anything about Sonic.
Okay.
Because I think I feel like there's an interesting kind of conversation around it, but I will wait if you're interested in seeing it, and if not, then I'll kind of tell you what my conversation is on our next episode. But the Photograph Sonic, I rewatched Hail Caesar,
Nice.
which I still love it. I still love Hobie Doyle. Like, if he's not in the movie, I don't think I like the movie nearly as much as I do.
Would that it were so simple.
What's wrong? It's complicated. Oh, I'm really
Would
sorry,
that it
Mr.
were.
Would that it were. Why are you saying that? Why are you doing it? Why are you saying it like that at the end? Where did it were? Where did it were?
Where did it were?
It's a movie with a bunch of like isolated, really good moments. Like, the song "No Dames" always has me cracking up. It's so goofy and it's such a good. It makes fun of all of those musicals so well, especially when they're like, we're gonna see octopuses, no dames. We'll see plenty of clams, no dames. Oh yeah, that's clever writing in the song. And then when they're doing the dance and it's just like on the teetering of a little homoerotic, it's perfect. It's so good.
That movie is what Once Upon a Time in Hollywood should have been.
Yeah, I agree. But are you planning on seeing The Photograph?
I may end up seeing it.
Okay.
I know my girlfriend wants to see it, so we may end up watching it, but yeah.
It's weird because it's kind of, like, I will say that it's kind of one of those movies where it's like, it lives and dies on how charming you find the characters to be on screen. If you don't find them charming, then the movie doesn't work. With that said, it's got a pretty good soundtrack. It's very like jazz infused. But if you don't buy the two main characters, then the movie doesn't really work. And then the other thing I was worried about was, like, have you seen the trailer?
No, I don't even know what it's about.
Oh, okay. Well, then I will leave it at that.
Like, I don't even know why it's called The Photograph.
Okay. Well, you know what? I've seen the entire movie, and I'll be honest, I wouldn't be able to tell you either.
Really?
Well, I understand. It feels a little muddled in its execution. I'll say that as well. But that's all I'll say. That's all you'll get out of me. I think that's all I've watched recently. Oh, no, I was rewatching John Wick 3.
Nice.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun. But with that said, speaking of a lot of violent, over-the-top deaths, let's get into Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey, and
Speaking of two violent, over-the-top deaths?
I don't know. I felt like there was a good number of them. I consider.
Two.
Let's see. There was the guy who was alive and he took his face off.
Yeah, there's Face Off. That's number one.
Yeah, and then there was Ewan McGregor blowing up midway, which caught me off guard. Didn't Harley Quinn kill someone pretty aggressively? No, they bit his hand off. It's been a while since I've seen the movie, so I felt like there was more violence in the movie than maybe there was. When I was watching it, I was like, that takes it a little far. But
it's weird because the movie didn't seem that violent other than those two deaths. The face getting cut off and then at
which
the
they
very
didn't
end.
show.
Yeah.
Well, how did Zaz die?
He just gets shot with a dart in the neck. And it's dark, so you don't really see any blood or anything.
Oh.
Because that was a big part of it too. It's a lot of people getting hit with stuff in a very bloodless way.
Well, there was that one mob boss that gets shot through the throat and then blood's leaking out of his trachea.
But he gets shot from the throat. The angle is from behind him.
Yeah, but you see the blood gushing out, coming out of his
Well,
mouth.
no, you see a little bit of blood dribble from his mouth. I don't know. So here's my thing with that movie. It feels like it's like it's rated R,
Yes.
deservedly so,
Yeah.
because mostly for swearing and some violence.
Right.
But it has the tone and the story beats of like a Pixar movie. You know, like it feels like a kids movie that just has the violence and language cranked up.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming with that, but should we start the way we always start with these?
Sure.
What do you give it?
It's fine.
I was gonna give it a high fine, even a low witness. Like, I think it's better than some of the run-of-the-mill movies that you'll see.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's got some serious pacing, because I think it's only 2 hours, but it felt like they
It's
crammed
less than 2 hours.
It felt like they crammed a lot into that less than 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then for a movie where the words birds of prey are larger than anything, there was quite a minuscule amount of birds of prey type things, especially interactions.
Do you know if they changed the opening title card after they changed the title of the movie?
Did you see it after the title changed?
So the theater I was at was still calling it Birds of Prey on their marquee, even though the title had been changed like officially.
So from what I understand, I don't think they redistributed the movie and changed the title to Harley Quinn Birds of Prey.
They didn't do
They did not do the cats.
Week 1 software update.
No, they did not do the security patch. No.
Okay.
As far as I know, I think it's supposed to be similar to like Edge of Tomorrow type rebranding on like the posters, the cover art, and specifically it was. I know that they rebranded it in AMC. Did you see it at a Low? What is it? It's not Lowe's Theaters. It's Edwards Cinema.
Yeah, Edwards Regal.
Okay, so I thought they had rebranded it at Edwards Regal, but I guess they only did it at like Cinemark and AMC was where I saw it like widely circulated that they changed it.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't think they put out a new poster either, which I mean, it would have been fun. Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey, also known as the movie that kind of pretends like Suicide Squad exists, but completely erases Jared Leto as Joker.
Yep. It still keeps all the weird like tattoos and the neon bubblegum vomit look, but
aesthetic
kind of dumps everything else. Yeah, it's interesting because like all the actors do well enough, even if their characters aren't characterized very well, or like you're not entirely sure what they're supposed to be going for. The script is interesting in terms of how it structures the story. Like, I like how it kind of jumps around in time without really giving a shit. But it's a lot of the dialogue and the beats that are supposed to feel like, oh, that was badass, or like, oh, this is X emotional beat, just doesn't land that well a lot of the time. The movie is like, it tries to compensate, I think, by having a ton of attitude, but the attitude feels a little misplaced in some places. Or it's like it's all attitude and no substance. However, there are some good laughs in the movie, like in the big fight at the end when the mercenaries like break through the roof and rappel down, and the guy like goes really fast and hits the floor, and he's just like, "Ow!" I thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
I don't know, like the way that the girl Cassandra Cain I thought was annoying.
I agree with that.
She was really annoying.
Yeah.
And everything about the egg sandwich was annoying. Like,
oh, really? I thought that was funny.
For me, it was so cartoonish. It just made the movie feel like why do I care? Like, this movie feels like it has no stakes, or like nothing really matters that much other than this egg sandwich.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I know. I think if it was, because I thought it was funny that her not being able to eat the 3-day-old egg sandwich. I thought that was a funny way to like start the events. And then I thought it was funny that they brought it around at the end, because like they didn't really there were multiple times throughout the movie where she could have just gone to the place and get a sandwich.
The way they bring it back at the end, and her and Cassandra Cain take like these anime character bites out of it.
Yeah.
That really sold the movie as like, oh, this is
That's the moment that you're like, yeah, it's fine.
This is a children's movie that's rated R.
Yeah.
Which is, to be fair, like a lot of DC stuff.
I was actually going to say, which is, to be fair, it's fine. I don't think I don't think it's a problem to have some like somewhat, because a lot of like there's a high level of immature R-rated content out there.
Yeah.
And so I don't really have a problem with this adding to that.
Adding to the pile.
Yeah.
Well, it's just it feels that's okay that there is a lot of immature R-rated content out there. The problem is that there's a lot of immature R-rated content out there that thinks it's more mature and sophisticated than it really is. You know, I feel like there's a lot of R-rated crap put out by mostly DC Comics, but Marvel's guilty of it too.
Yeah.
And other just publishers in general, not just in the comics world, but in video games and movies and all sorts of stuff.
Right.
Where it's like this is, you know, it's the sophistication level of middle school people. Like this was made for, it feels like it was made for 12-year-olds, but you know, the violence and sex is ratcheted up to an insane degree to kind of justify it as being for adults so that, you know, adult readers or viewers can consume it without feeling like it's like, oh, I'm watching kid stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, which I think is, that's the big problem that plagues a lot of like nerd culture, for lack of a better term, is I think adults who like it are constantly trying to feel justified in liking it. So they want like dark and mature Star Wars and dark and mature Superman and all this stuff. Right. But no one knows how to execute it when it really should just be, a lot of it should be for all ages, because all ages includes adults and adults can enjoy that shit too.
Yeah. That's a fascinating thing, because like I think you and I are probably in agreement on this. The reason why Star Wars works is not because they're children's movies, it's because they're for all ages. And that's something that people seem to forget. I think George Lucas kind of forgot it when he was doing the prequels. Yeah. And then ever since it's moved to Disney hasn't wanted something that's for all ages. They want something for 13 to 16-year-old boys. And so it has this like, we're mature Star Wars, where we run around and go pew pew pew. So, and I do agree with, like, I don't have a problem with immature, quote, mature content, unquote. But I do agree that, especially in comic books, like this is the problem that it ran into, is that you can't have surface level maturity and pretend that you're a mature comic book. Like you can't just be like the problem that happened with the Watchmen effect is that people looked at Watchmen and they said, hey, there's violence, there's sex, it's gritty, let's do that for comic books, but not actually realizing that it's a commentary on how like vigilantism is probably not good in the real world. Yeah. Or, you know, that sort of thing.
Well, I mean, Watchmen is a comic book about the structure of comic books.
Yes.
So making a movie out of it is a fucking stupid idea to begin with, but that's beside the point.
It's a stupid idea if you're not making a movie that makes fun of the structure of movies, which basically means that you had to have it be directed by
Charlie Kaufman.
Oh no, it would have to be written by Charlie Kaufman and directed by Jean-Luc Godard.
Pretty much.
And then we would all hate
Godard's Watchmen. It's an interminable nightmare.
The whole thing is just like images of Rorschach pictures with like superimpositions of like French actors looking at the screen and like smoking, all cool. Starring the guy from Breathless. It's like anyway.
I saw, speaking of Rorschach, I saw some joke the other day that was like, Rorschach is probably my favorite superhero. I just wish his mask didn't look like my dad abandoning me.
That's amazing. Well, it was also funny because like Rorschach was intended to be like he was intended to be seen as a villain in a way. And everyone was like, this guy's the coolest guy ever because he plays by his own rules. And I was like, because I fell into that when I first read it until I found out that he was the homeless guy. And I was like, oh God, I don't want to be like this obsessive and gross and disgusting. Like, oh God.
I mean, I feel like, you see that kind of effect with Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, where people will just endlessly defend those movies, not because they're good, but because it feels like, I think for some folks because they fit that paradigm of like, yeah, this movie is it's about as sophisticated and intellectual as anything written by someone who's 12, but it thinks it's really smart, and it's really dark and gritty, and it's like, oh, we're so dark and mature. So that people
Superman
feel
is
like
hopeless.
Yeah, so I think people feel like, oh, if I like this, that means I am smart and dark and sophisticated and all that shit. So they'll defend it, even though those movies are like empty, vacuous, stupid piles of shit that are entertaining only for kind of how clunky they are, and because Zack Snyder's a really good action director.
Right. So here's my question on Birds of Prey then. Mm-hmm. Do you think this movie is making fun, kind of in a way that I guess Deadpool was, but is kind of making fun of that whole thing? Because again, the whole premise of the movie is really ridiculous and stupid. All of the story beats are like so cliche and hit at the exact moments they need to hit to be the story beat it needs to be. I actually thought you'd have a problem with this, but there's like a very strong level of self-awareness in the movie. Mm-hmm. Like I find it funny how like Huntress. So I like Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and I liked her in this role because she's basically playing Mary Elizabeth Winstead playing Huntress, but for lack of a better thing, because the character in the comics, she's like super moody and like Batman will never accept me, and in this she's like super moody, but she's also like kind of got like a wit about her. But like her inability to like present herself properly, like,
or like the movie's aware of her lack of self-awareness.
Right. Yeah. Like I felt like you might think that was kind of annoying, especially with,
I thought that was fine. I was mainly thinking like, did McGregor get her on the movie, or did she get McGregor on the movie?
Oh God. I just feel like the shooting of that movie was just super awkward the whole time. I mean, because I know that they got together and then he divorced his wife and she broke up with him because he was married and divorcing his wife for her. So I thought the whole thing might be like super awkward.
I don't know, because I mean, Ewan McGregor does seem to be on like the alimony tour right now, to quote John Cleese. Like he's in Doctor Sleep, he's in Christopher Robin, like he's in all these movies that I feel like he's above being in, but it's like, oh, does Ewan McGregor need money suddenly? And now he's talking about like an Obi Wan centric thing from Disney, so it's like, oh no, Ewan McGregor, is your wife like just taking you for all you're worth right now? Like, what's going on?
All that train spotting money.
Well, all that Star Wars prequel money,
Well, and yeah, Star Wars prequel and like licensing money and everything like that. But also, I just imagine like the Obi Wan prequel. They were going to come out with a statue that was Obi Wan on Tatooine between episodes 3 and 4, where like it was the face of Alec Guinness on the body of Ewan McGregor. Can we use the Irishman technology to do that in a Star Wars series? I would watch the shit out of that series. I think it's more because he took some kind of like strange indie roles for a couple of years because he was Jesus of Nazareth in one movie.
Well, and that's where the whole Obi-Wan thing got started too.
Talking about it, it's like, hey, I played a guy in a desert for 40 days. I'd be happy to play a guy in a desert for 40 years. It's from him playing
the whole Obi-Wan trailer thing that went viral is just a recut. It's the Jesus of Nazareth trailer recut with Alec Guinness's voiceover. From A New Hope. That's how that's how the entire thing got started, and that's why people are clamoring for a movie where Ewan McGregor sits on a rock for 2 hours and thinks about shit.
Maybe goes and kills a bantha.
Yeah, or a TV or web
TV
series on Disney Plus where Ewan McGregor sits on a rock for 10 hours and meditates about shit.
I mean, if they had the balls to actually do that, I would probably, I would applaud them. I would not watch
Jean-Luc
it.
Godard's Obi Wan.
Star Wars by Jean-Luc Godard. That's just the scroll as it's going past. It's just like a film by Jean-Luc Godard, director of blah, blah, blah. And that's just the scroll. It's just his credits.
It's all it is Obi Wan sitting on a rock, occasional voiceover, and then those hard-hitting French title cards where it's one word at a time followed by a gunshot or something. But instead of a gunshot, it's a blaster sound effect.
Force. Maul. Well, that's the thing. They were saying,
bam, I heard you paint houses.
I heard you make lightsabers. You could have the crux of that was we'll bring back Ray Park as Darth Maul, and we'll bring back Ewan McGregor as Obi Wan Kenobi, and it'll just go to show that Ray Park's still in much better shape than Ewan McGregor, and that's the series. It's just like them taking off their shirts and comparing their guts.
The only two versions of this that I would be remotely okay with are Ewan McGregor sits on a rock for 2 hours, and it's this weird experimental film that just tests people's patience and bores most folks, or a buddy cop story where Obi-Wan teams up with a young Boba Fett and they have to hunt down Robo Darth Maul.
Dude, that's
written and directed by Shane Black.
You had me until the Shane Black part.
Okay, written and directed by
James Mangold.
James Mangold. There, no,
he doesn't do buddy cop stuff.
He's too serious. Written directed by the Coen brothers. There we go.
Ooh, it'll never happen. But dude, no offense.
It's too good of an idea to happen. But
I'm
so putting it out there.
And you actually get Tamamura Morrison to play as Boba Fett, all that. You get a body double with digitally inserted Tamamura Morrison's face.
Hell yeah.
Oh, that would be amazing. Lord of the Rings. Have you read the books, or do you know about the actual chronology of it?
No.
Okay, so what you were describing, there's a moment where Gandalf and Aragorn start going around Middle Earth trying to find Smeagol. Back when Sauron has him, and that's basically what you just described, but Star Wars wise. So I'm down.
Yes.
Print that ticket, write that script, send it over to Disney, and print that ticket for me. I am in. Although I would say I would probably have Michael Bay direct it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't. Just to give it that Bad Boys feel.
Oh, so on the note of Ewan McGregor, what was he what is he going for in Birds of Prey? I know less about Black Mask after the movie than I did going in. Because I don't know if he's in the movie, he comes off as Tennessee Williams. This super gay, super misogynistic, flamboyant nut job. I don't know if that's what it's supposed to be. Because Tennessee Williams, it's widely documented that he hated women. And part of why he hated women, I think, had something to do with A, him having a bad relationship with his mother, B, being gay, so he felt like he didn't have any use for women. And that's how Ewan McGregor comes across in this movie. And I don't know if that's intentional or not, because he has this weird romantic thing with Mr. Zaz, but he also has it feels like they're trying to push him as maybe being straight because of Black Canary, who, first of all, making Black Canary Black is just the weirdest unintentional pun I've ever seen.
Dude, it's nice. I didn't even have to come up with a joke like that. It's just in the movie.
It's just in the movie, yeah. And I don't know if that was I didn't know if that was what the thinking was behind that. I mean, the lady who plays her does a really good job.
Yeah, she does.
But it's just it's funny that you have a superhero that's black something who in the comics is white, and then you make her black for the movie, and it's was that meant to be a double entendre or what? And then also that she never uses her superpowers. Throughout the entire movie, she's a superhero who uses her superpowers one time. And I hate it when movies do that. To make it more like, oh, it's gritty and realistic because she
passes out after she uses it.
No, it's gritty and realistic because she kicks dudes who are twice her size instead of using her superpowers to dispatch the bad guys.
She's not in the movie enough to use it more than once. That's the...
She should be using it in every violent encounter. What are you talking about? Like, she should be just spamming it like like Hadouken in Street Fighter. Like, that's her one move. That's what she should have been doing. But
budget constraints. Margot Robbie's wardrobe cost too much money.
But yeah, I don't know what... I didn't understand Ewan McGregor's performance in this. I don't know what he was going for.
I think he was... So, one, I think that the sort of gay or the homoerotic overtones between Zaz and Ewan McGregor, I think that was more Zaz than Ewan McGregor. Who's the actor? I can't think of his name, but he's like a solid guy, and I like him in everything.
Yeah, he's like a solid character actor.
Chris Messina.
I didn't recognize.
Chris Messina.
Yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm. He was in Devil, written by M. Night Shyamalan. But
he was in the newsroom where he owns people a la Aaron Sorkin, and then gets owned.
Until
by Jeff Daniels
comes in and owns everyone.
Because that's that entire show is Jeff Daniels owning people and saying, "Well, I am a Republican," and then
I have all
saying
these
something, and then just repeating Democratic talking points.
Yep. You know what's really being Republican? Social democracy.
You know what Republicans love? Taxpayer healthcare.
Oh man. Oh god. You know what? I want more like action movies written by Aaron Sorkin, because instead of action scenes, we'll just get scenes of people being owned by dialogue. Superman by Aaron Sorkin. You thought he had laser vision? Wrong. He has a super ownage mouth. I don't know. He doesn't freeze people with freeze breath anymore. He takes them down with his language.
You see the yellow sun radiation increases his wit to 10,000 times that of a normal human.
Well, isn't Superman, like, in addition to being, like, everything good, isn't he also, like, super intelligent?
I don't know. It depends on the interpretation.
Yeah.
It depends on if you're taking Quentin Tarantino's interpretation or Zack Snyder's interpretation.
Quentin Tarantino's interpretation?
Yeah, remember in Kill Bill Part 2, Bill has a whole monologue about Batman and Superman and how Superman is actually like this really smart, sophisticated guy, but he plays kind of this dopey, inept reporter in Clark Kent because that's how he views regular people. Which is an interesting way to think about Superman, because the way I always thought of him, because this is the type of Superman media I grew up with, is that Superman is Clark Kent. He is kind of like this naive, well-meaning do-gooder who then has to kind of dress up as a superhero because he's trying to like portray that to everybody else. He's trying to portray this ideal to everyone else. Yeah. But really deep down, he's just like this yokel.
He's just like a farmer who's just like, yeah. I mean, that's
just like a good dude, you know?
Yeah, you didn't see Sonic, so I can't make a comparison there. Which, ironically, James Marsden, who is in Sonic the Hedgehog, was in Superman Returns,
yeah,
as the guy who was the most fun to watch in Superman Returns, who probably should have their interpretation of Superman should have just been James Marsden as Superman Returns, which is what cost Cyclops his life in X3. Mm-hmm. So it all comes back to Bryan Singer, unfortunately. Which is funny because there's a good chance that Ewan McGregor may have been a little bit inspired by Bryan Singer.
Really?
But anyway, no. I think the articles that I've seen float around, I thought that Ewan McGregor was just being like a really eccentric character. You know how every now and then a really good actor just takes a role to just chew scenery and be as over the top as possible. I thought that's kind of what he was going for, but apparently...
But it's like, Oh, go ahead.
Apparently, it was supposed to be a reflection of toxic masculinity.
What?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but again, it's like Tennessee Williams' toxic masculinity,
Right,
not
right.
like what we conventionally think of.
Well, it's kind of like when you meet someone and you're like, oh, they're eccentric or flamboyant. It's like flamboyant toxic masculinity, flamboyant toxicity, because that's what he was.
I don't know,
was-
man. 'Cause
Apparently,
it
he's
feels
nothing like Black Mask. Apparently, Black Mask
No.
in the comics is completely different.
Oh no, Black Mask in the comics is just boring gangster man.
Yeah.
But it's just, yeah, I can kind of see what you mean, where he's playing like an eccentric character, but it feels like eccentric with no motivation or direction behind it. It's just eccentric to be eccentric. It's like, oh, I'm gonna wear gloves and scream because that's eccentric, and people like eccentric.
Right. And that's why I feel like it's like chewing scenery. It's Al Pacino in The Devil's Advocate. He wanted to have that role where they just kind of let him do whatever he wants to.
Yeah,
in it.
and it's funny. I think you kind of touched on this earlier, or like started to get into it earlier about the movie being self-aware and like what the fuck is this even about, and trying to be sophisticated and failing at it. Like the movie, I feel like it's trying to be this sort of feminist emancipation, all the single ladies put your hands up sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it achieves that. It's just kind of a muddled mess. Like it pays lip service to it, but it's still just a dumb action movie.
I mean, I don't know. I have a weird feeling because I feel like it's nice to have media. For example, this one was like, I think it was written by women, directed by a woman, clearly starring primarily female actresses. By the way, which reminded me of something really weird about Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, which is that there are female stormtroopers. Like it makes sense, but it's weird to hear like someone like a stormtrooper being blasted and like you hear like a woman go like, ah! It's like, huh, I never thought about that. That's a nice touch. Anyway, back to Emancipation. It's kind of like all of this stuff, everything in Birds of Prey kind of swirled together to kind of just put out a movie for everyone to watch, but had, I would say, it tried to have like strongly aggressive feminist undertones, I guess. But it's I don't know. I don't know where I come down on it because I'm fine with media that is like, oh, this is like, if it were a bunch of guys doing this in a movie, it's fine. In this case, it's women, and all we've done is literally change their gender. Now, obviously, that's not the case here because there's a lot of those moments where it's like, Montoya got passed over because like, oh, she did all of the work, but the captain got it instead of her. But I never thought it was painted as like Montoya didn't get it because she's a woman, even though I think that was what they were implying. I think it would have been more effective if the guy was white. That would have like drove the point home, and him being black, it's like, well, at least they promoted the minority. But like even if that situation happened to a guy who was hardworking, it would still suck.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's just weird because it's like, me, I don't like the excuse of like it's okay for Crazy Rich Asians to suck because it's all Asian cast with all Asian crew.
I mean,
it's
I don't think the movie. I actually think Crazy Rich Asians was actually done competently well in comparison. But yeah, I know
movie.
I
think it's awful. I think it is terrible. But that's beside the point. Because I think there's this.
I actually
weird
like
thing.
the movie.
There's this weird thing, I think, where if a movie has like the woke political shit on its side, it gets excused for being a generic pile of trash. So like, Crazy Rich Asians is a terrible movie, but it's like everyone's like, well, it's a all Asian cast, all Asian crew. It's okay that it's a generic rom-com that glorifies the wealthy elites that make Singapore a fucking shithole for all the poor people who live there. because of diversity. And it's like, no, like if it doesn't matter who's in the movie, make the movie not a generic pile of garbage. You know, if you're gonna have an all Asian cast and all Asian crew, make a good movie. Don't, you know, this idea that like they're trying to prove that they can do the boring rom-com too, like that's not a point worth proving. You know, just like having another kind of meh DC action movie, except this time it's all women to prove what? That all-female cast and all-female production can make a mediocre action movie? That's not a point worth proving either. You know? So it's like, that bugs the shit out of me. The trying to do the woke politics thing and then not committing to it bothers me, because like I hate it when people half-ass stuff.
Right.
Because this movie is so muddled. Like I said, it tries to be super woke, and then it's like it just comes off feeling confused. And you know, everyone's like, oh, you know, it's got a strong feminist message, and it's like, I don't see any message in this movie other than like, we're sorry you bought a ticket, hopefully you find this entertaining.
I didn't think it was that bad. Like
no, it's not that bad of a movie. It's just, you know, there's a lot of mediocrity out there. I feel like excusing mediocrity because of diversity is not a good idea.
I agree with you.
And it sets a bad precedent, because then you're conditioning viewers to expect mediocrity from, you know, minority-led productions because they have, you know, because they feel like they can phone it in or whatever. When it's like there's a lot, you know, there's a lot of really great stories to tell. There's a lot of really great artists who worked on this movie who are not, you know,
right,
the typical straight white male who I feel like could have done better.
Okay, it's kind of difficult for me because like in an ideal world, I 100% agree with you. But I guess here's where my point, like I agree with you that people should not like overly praise something of a lesser quality and make it a greater quality. Like, for example, like me coming on this show and being like, dude, Birds of Prey was, you know, shiny and chrome. Then you'd be like, Matt, you're sipping the Kool-Aid. And granted, I am sipping the Kool-Aid because I did enjoy it more. For example, I enjoyed it a lot more than fucking Suicide Squad.
Well, that's easy.
That's a given. But I did like genuinely enjoy the movie. Mm-hmm. Now I agree, like it, because I think it's got like an 85 or a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's like it's generally people liked it. That's what that means. But
which
people
like,
will interpret it.
There's more good, I think, in the movie than bad.
I agree.
But
yeah.
The good has a very slim lead.
Yeah.
And again, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, you're talking about Ewan McGregor trying to be, you know, toxic masculinity.
Well, that's what some articles have seen. I just thought he was trying to be like really eccentric and over the top, and potentially, again, it's one of those, you know, misogynistic.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, if it's, I don't know, it pays lip service to that sort of stuff, where it tries to make it seem like it has that kind of a message, but it doesn't have that message. It's really just, you know, a movie designed to entertain and not really be about much of anything.
Right.
Which is fine. There's plenty of movies that are like that, but I don't like it when you pay lip service to being about something and when you're not about anything.
The other thing is that the movie would have... Okay, let me go back to your original point. I understand what you're saying, and I think that a movie should not be overly praised for, say, an all-female-led superhero movie, which you could make the argument that Wonder Woman was overly praised, although I still really like Wonder Woman, and I still think it's probably one of the best of the DC movies that have come out.
Well,
if not
the
best.
best. It's probably the best non-Christopher Nolan DC movie that I can think of.
Yeah. And I still think I would still prefer it over, like, it's still unique enough that I prefer it in most cases over a lot of the lower tier Marvel movies, for example.
Yeah.
But I think I don't have a problem with, like, minority-led movies that are really shitty coming out and doing well, because there are a lot of other movies that are really shitty that come out and do well. Yeah. Like, it is not, like, a mutually exclusive thing. So... And I hate to say that I would prefer an oversaturation than an undersaturation, because right now in the industry there is a strong problem of like underrepresented voices, even if those voices even if their voices are underdeveloped. Like I could make an argument that for all of the merits of The Photograph, I think a lot of people's reaction to the movie, now if you see it, you could be different, but I feel like what you're talking about is what's talked about in The Photograph, where a lot of people are like, this is a great movie because, blah, 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 blah. And I just find it as like, I probably find it at the same level you found Crazy Rich Asians, where I was like, it's fine, but it could have been better. But I would rather have that movie come out and then get praise and potentially lead to something even better coming out. Like, for example, if this movie leads to an actual Birds of Prey movie that has these characters who I think have pretty good chemistry, I would be happy with that. Maybe lean back a little bit on the Harley Quinn. Just a little bit,
it's just like,
so
I'm not of the mind that like I don't want a big generic hacky movie to come out just to open the door for better movies to come out. I just want this first one to be the better movie,
Yeah, I mean, I would agree, but I think to I don't know, it's because like to expect that in this day and age, and especially with the baggage that this movie came with when it was greenlit and started production, it's amazing that it is anywhere near as decent as it is.
Well, given that it's made by DC, it's a wonder it's not awful. Like, to say it's fine is an achievement, I think.
Well, I think that, like, me personally, I feel like DC has turned a really good corner, and this might be this and Wonder Woman 84. This and Wonder Woman 84 are going to be like the last remnants of sort of like we did a shitty job, DC, now we're trying to reorient the shit.
I hope so. It's just there's a lot of, studio meddling is the biggest uptrend in the last 20 years of filmmaking, more so than representation, more so than woke politics, more so than anything else. It's, the marketing team making, or at least overseeing all of the creative decisions, movies getting cut to death to appeal to focus group testing. And, the more DC gets away from that, the better. I think Birds of Prey is a step in the right direction in terms of that. Like, there is a lot of like focus group bullshit where the Harley Quinn's narration, I think the animation and stuff, it all feels very ripped from Deadpool. It's like, oh, people like Deadpool, let's do the Deadpool stuff.
I didn't even think about that because honestly, like, Deadpool barely stuck with me.
Yeah, well, it's like, oh, hey, we have this hyper-violent anti-hero cartoon character as our protagonist. What goes better with dark shit than cutesy animations? Ha ha ha! So original, but it's been around forever. Anyone who remembers Happy Tree Friends knows that. So there is a lot of like focus group approved crap in this movie that is painfully unoriginal. But I think it is a step in the right direction to the degree that it's not cut to death the way that Aquaman was or the way that Shazam was.
Aquaman.
I don't like Aquaman. It doesn't have those moments where the main character or some side character like makes faces at the camera to signal to the audience how they should be feeling in a certain moment. Like, there's no, like, when a cool thing happens in Birds of Prey, the cool thing just happens and they let it go, which is how you should do it. Like, when Ewan McGregor blows up at the end, like, that moment's great.
Good.
It's hilarious. It's shocking. Like, it works really well. And they just allow it to happen. They let it sit with you for a sec, and then they move on. And it's awesome. They don't have Jason Momoa like go, whoa, bro, that was awesome, while the camera pushes in on him like they do every 10 seconds in Aquaman.
Oh my god, I love Aquaman though.
I don't understand why.
I think because, like, when we talk, I could understand your point with Aquaman about, like, it really holds the audience's hand. For example, every time they show Patrick Wilson, they always play, like, the most distilled version of the bad guy theme, where it's literally
Yeah.
just dun dun dun, like to the point where my dad and I were cracking the fuck up every single time it happened. We thought it was the funniest thing.
Yeah, or it's like in Aquaman, you know when they meet Willem Dafoe in that like shipwreck, and he tells them their mission. He tells them their mission twice in that scene. He explains the entire backstory and what they have to do 2 times, because that's how stupid DC thinks audiences are.
I mean,
and
in
that
their defense,
frustrated me to no end. In their defense, there are people who think Batman versus Superman is a good movie.
It is not James Wan's fault that he had to play to the audience in those.
It's just that stuff frustrates the hell out of me. It's like when Black Manta, Yahya Abdul-Mateen, who like his character's pretty cool, and he's I think he does a good job in his performance and stuff.
Yeah.
But he's forced to do those stupid like studio insert moments where like he's tweaking his helmet and it shoots a laser at his at the wall or something and blows a hole in it, and he just looks at the camera like, "We gonna need a bigger boat." It's like, dude,
comedy.
Like hashtag comedy. You have now entered the comedy zone. Like why? Why did he do that? He's he's a very stoic, serious character. Why does he have to have a comedic insert like that?
You know what, dude? Because the reason I love Aquaman is like with all of those things, I accept all of those things for one simple reason. It seems like it was the movie where James Wan was given carte blanche to do whatever the hell he wanted.
But
he did everything he ever could manage to fit in a movie.
Well, he did, and then someone cut it to death
Added
a bunch of inserts of Willem Dafoe playing like either Krillin or I don't know, like whatever character. Like that movie is like every anime TV show where the two people are fighting, and then there's some guy. It's like, he's like using such and such technique to blah 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 blah. Like that's Willem Dafoe's character.
Aquaman, the shonen anime. Aquaman, the live action adaptation of the shonen anime.
Yes.
But there's something to say for that. It might have been that wasn't studio interference, and that was James Wan and his background of like, I know how to make jump scares in horror movies. I know how to make tense moments in horror movies with that pop. I know how to direct the audience. And he also just came off of directing. I think he did the Conjuring 2, but right before that he did Fast and the Furious 7. So it's probably like a marriage of like, I know what the studios want, but they're also allowing me to have Indiana Jones in this movie, and Judi Dench plays a giant sea monster, so I'm going to put these in. And I personally am willing to accept that, and I'm also willing to accept, if you ever saw the Just Right video about how he hated Aquaman because anytime there was too much exposition, there was an explosion. I'm okay with all of that because again, for me personally, I had a really good time with it, and I like the fact that it's so stuffed with weird shit. So that's why I like it. And yeah, if you don't like that, if that's not your cup of tea, I totally get it. If you feel like he had to make too many, if you feel like he had to make too many concessions to the studio in order to get it done, that makes total sense.
I mean, I'm okay with movies being weird. I'm not okay with a movie being that like aggressively dumb. And I had the same problem with
I love Roadhouse,
Shazam.
so I clearly don't have a problem with that.
Dude, I can't remember where I heard this, but some guy was talking about Roadhouse, and he's like, man, Patrick Swayze is the worst fucking bouncer ever. Like, if you're a bouncer at a bar, you're supposed to like keep the peace, keep everything cool so everyone can have a good time. And then Patrick Swayze is like, you spilled your drink. I'm going to kick 10 people in the head.
Dude, that guy clearly didn't watch Roadhouse because within the first half hour he outlines his rules. Take it out of the bar. Anytime there's violence, he takes it out of the bar. Fuck, I love Roadhouse. It's so stupid, but it's amazing. Oh my god, it's so good. Ben Gazzara is such a great bad guy. Ben Gazzara is just great, and it's sad that he's gone. But man, he's an awesome bad guy. Anyway.
I
I enjoyed Shazam, but I had the same problem with it that I had with initially with Wonder Woman and even with Birds of Prey, in that it felt like there were like a lot of weird script and pacing problems. But overall, I thought Shazam was another step in the right direction. Like, could you have imagined teenage, like, grim, dark Shazam? I am Zeus.
No, but I wanted something like Shazam should have been made by like Pixar
Or Steven Spielberg.
or Steven
in the
Spielberg or Hayao Miyazaki or something, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Not by the director of Annabelle Creation
no
and Lights Out.
No, not by any group that has Jeff Johns involved.
Well, that's an impossibility at this point.
But it's just like, again, Shazam is like an aggressively stupid, hey, look, this movie's fun. We're having fun because everyone's smiling and saying dumb shit. And Zachary Levi's entire personality is that he yells. Like, you know how there's some...
He yells and he acts like an 8-year-old.
Yeah, well, it's like, you know how there's
That was my
comedians who are like, if I say my stand-up set really, really loud, people will think it's funny. That's Zachary Levi in Shazam. He's like, maybe if I yell all my lines, people will laugh.
I thought he did a good job, but I thought that the bridge between the kid who played as Billy Batson and Zachary Levi as Shazam, which is how I see him. I don't see him as like Shazam. I see him as Zachary Levi as Shazam. I think there was a disconnect. I don't think Zachary Levi was attempting to do an impersonation of that kid as an adult. I feel like Zachary Levi was just playing Zachary Levi pretending to be an 8-year-old in a guy's body. That was my main problem with the connection there. But I mean...
I also thought it was weird that Mark Strong is supposed to be Dr. Savannah, who like who's like a smart science guy who uses his brains to, you know, match Captain Marvel's like strength and speed and ability and superpowers and stuff. But instead, he just has the exact same superpowers as Captain Marvel.
Oh, I was gonna say instead he's an anime character that has like different powers represented by different beings.
I mean, that's both of them.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So yeah, I thought that was weird. Like, why does he have like, how are you supposed to have Black Adam be interesting and new when you have Mark Strong basically playing Black Adam?
Yeah. Again, I don't know anything about Dr. Sinestra, Dr. Savannah, but I think it's funny that Mark Strong has had 2 attempts at the DC universe, and he was Sinestro and Dr. Savannah. Is that right?
Yep.
It's he. The next character he's gonna play is I don't know any other villains that have an S in their name. Make him Mr. Freeze. That would be great. Make him Mr. Freeze. He's already bald and he's good at acting. He could do it. He could pull it off. I don't know. It's funny. I liked Shazam, but I've never gone back to rewatch it.
There's no DC movie I would go back to rewatch, except for like, I'd be down to like have one of those bad movie night type of parties where everyone watches Justice League.
I don't think I would do Justice League. I think I'd have to do Batman v Superman: The Ultimate Cut. Just because the action scenes in that are so fucking cool, but the movie itself is so fucking stupid.
I know. You see, it's mature and sophisticated because Batman brands people and crawls on the ceiling like a weird animal.
I was gonna say like a fucking Japanese horror character. Oh man, fuck, dude. But goddamn, Batman v Superman is. It's so weird because it's like it's exactly everything that's wrong with movies. It's like it's got these great action scenes. It's like it took the formula of Pacific Rim, but it fucked it up because the character moments aren't good. Because there's like 45 minutes where nothing happens, and Superman. It's like where they just chase a red herring to nothing with Scoot McNairy and what's her name, the senator who talks out of the side of her mouth that also played Mission Incredible.
Holly Hunter.
Holly Hunter. That goes nowhere. What the heck was the point of that? That could have been really interesting. That would have been really fun to... Oh, no, they're blown up. That was stupid. I can't believe we wasted time on that. But here's a montage of Superman looking really depressed as he does really good things.
The other frustrating thing about that movie is like how it features a lot of the villain talking about like men and gods and power while standing in front of like overtly religious paintings to signal that the movie is intellectual and philosophical and sophisticated. But if you actually listen to his words, he's not saying anything. That's another one of my least favorite tropes in movies, is when the bad guy is supposed to be like smart and sophisticated. So they give him a lot of like intelligent sounding lines to say, but then you actually listen to the words and what he's saying makes no sense. Like you see that with Blade Runner 2049. You see that with Hobbs and Shaw. And you see it in Batman v Superman. Like, it's like, oh, we have this film is about something. It's serious. But it's not.
It's like Terrence Malick in a supervillain. Why is man so... Why is nature so beautiful and man so evil, Superman? It's Superman just looking at him. He's like, that's what I'm supposed to say.
It's just a Terrence Malick voiceover, but dumb.
I know, but it's weird because I love it. Maybe that's the problem, is like I love all of that in dumb action movies because like it's a dumb action movie. It's like let me go through with you the reasons why man deserves to be destroyed and I'm so evil. And I'm like, yeah, it's really lame and it's really goofy, but I love all of that lame and goofy stuff. Except
I hate it.
When I only don't like it when it's trying to be very earnest about it. Then
but the thing is, it is trying to be earnest about it.
That's the problem with the movies, is that Lex Luthor is like, Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor, or the son of Lex Luthor, or however they were going to try and spin it, should have been a great choice, and it just ended up being a terrible choice.
Dude, he was a better Joker than Jared Leto when he played Lex Luthor.
Oh, I know. It was so sad. I was like, why are you just pretending to be Heath Ledger? Is in this, like, David S. Goyer, why can't you actually write different sophisticated villains? Why do they all have to be the same sophisticated villain?
I know. Or it's like every line of Jared Leto's dialogue in Blade Runner 2049 is bad.
So bad.
So bad.
When I bought the Tyrell company, I had decided to create the perfect imitation of human life, a better human than I... And his delivery is just so weird, too.
Well,
like,
he sounds like a parody of a philosophical villain, you know what I mean?
Right, and while he's not intending to be.
He's completely earnest. It's dead serious.
It's so bad. I don't understand why Jared Leto keeps getting like, I'm so glad that the movie Morbius is coming out, because hopefully this will be the last movie Jared Leto is ever in. It's just so bad. Why?
My hope is that Morbius is directed by Sam Raimi, and it's like this insane Evil Dead style movie.
Well, did you hear that the new Doctor Strange movie, apparently Sam Raimi is currently connected to it? Go ahead and just like sit on that. I'm very, very curious to know how it's going to go.
Yeah, that is interesting.
I think the issue they were having is that it's supposed to be a horror movie, but they also have to make it in line with Marvel movies, so they have to have some comedy. So
it also has to be squeaky clean and inoffensive and boring and unoriginal.
Well, that's going to be the hard part. That's going to be the part that it leans too heavily on Spider-Man 3, which you could make an argument that the problem with Spider-Man 3 was that it was trying to be too earnest.
The problem with Spider-Man 3 is that Sam Raimi intentionally made a bad movie to spite the studios because they tried to take creative control away from him.
Yes, that is something I fundamentally agree with. Now, I'm excited to see who Bruce Campbell is going to be, what kind of cameo he's going to link him to, and I hope it's going to be something really, really, really awesome.
I hope so.
I'm just happy Sam Raimi's directing another movie, man. It feels like it's been forever since he came out with something.
I know,
like,
it's
since Oz the Great and Powerful, I think. And I know he did episodes of Ash versus the Evil Dead, but going back to Birds of Prey quickly, Birds of Prey is actually connected to Steve Jobs. Did you know that?
Who gets owned in Birds of Prey verbally?
Only the audience. But but the music is done by Daniel Pemberton. Isn't that weird?
I don't know who that is.
He's the guy who does all the music for Danny Boyle's movies.
Oh, okay.
But it's weird to see him in there, and also it was weird to find out that Matthew Libatique, also known as what's his name's favorite cinematographer, Darren Aronofsky's favorite cinematographer, was the one who shot the movie. It's like I know this is weird, but I love all of these like little strange production asides. Like one thing people really liked about the movie is that it looked good. And I was like, hey, that's weird. And then turns out Matthew Libatique was the cinematographer, and it's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense actually. Why like there's an entire fight scene where the camera's just going around in a circle.
Yeah. Which was really well done.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think all of the action scenes were pretty good in this. I didn't really have a problem with any of them. I like how they brought back roller rink skating for this.
I didn't love most of the action in this movie except for the
last
final
fight scene.
roller rink sequence. Yeah, like I thought that was really fun. I thought everything else was like, it's okay.
Yeah, I like the use of the different items and like how they were fighting and everything like that. If you asked me to like describe any of the action scenes, I think I would fail miserably at it. Oh no, that's not true. When Harley Quinn has the sawed-off shotgun and she goes into the police station,
Shoots canisters of confetti at people.
And confetti and like bombs of like red
Glitter.
and blue glitter and shit. And the one thing about that is that if you look, you can see the stuntmen waiting to be taken down.
Oh, totally.
It was a little distracting, especially because so much of it was in slow motion.
Oh yeah, well it's like a lot of those fight scenes in not just in Birds of Prey, but in movies like Birds of Prey, where you're having like, either an actor or actress who's not a stunt person, or a stunt person who is very small taking on a much larger stunt person. Mm-hmm. It's kind of crazy to see how hard they go to sell the reaction. There's some sequence where I think Harley Quinn does a physically impossible throw of a much larger man, where it's like, okay, if it was like a proper judo throw, it would make sense, but the physics of it don't make sense because it's not a throw that exists in any martial art. It's just some shit they made up on the spot. And the guy, you can tell, like, you can see the guy's knees like push off the ground, so he flips all the way over her and to sell like, oh yeah, I got thrown really hard, So it's always funny to see that stuff. Again, especially because it's in slow motion, so you can see guys like jump into throws and hits and things like that. The one thing, as wacky and corny as Hobbs and Shaw is, the physics of how that one lady is constantly flinging grown men around. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're at least, I don't know if they would actually work in real life, but the movie does a good job of selling it. So it looks like, oh yeah, I could believe that. I can believe that she's flinging these people back and forth. Yeah. Not so much Birds of Prey.
No, Margot Robbie, the great actress Margot Robbie, who's able to sell a lot of things, was not able to sell you as an action hero.
No. When she's hitting people with a baseball bat, I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't care how big you are, that's gonna hurt like a motherfucker. But yeah, the upside down hip tosses, I'm not so sure about.
Are you a fan of Harley Quinn at all? Like, my familiarity pretty much started and ended with the animated series.
Same for me. I mean, she's a solid kind of counterpart to the Joker, where he's so evil and insane, and she's kind of like, she's funny in like a sad way, because she's constantly like after his approval, which she's never gonna get. Right. She only works in the context of that pairing. Outside of that, she kind of falls flat on her own.
Do you like Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn?
I think I mentioned this on our last podcast. She seems like, on paper, she is born to play Harley Quinn.
You're the one who told me this then. Okay, yeah.
But
go ahead.
When you actually see it, you're like, something's wrong. Like, she's not doing it right.
She's the uncanny valley of Harley Quinn.
Yeah, because it's like, I don't know if she just doesn't go hard enough, or she's going too hard, or if she's approaching it from the wrong angle. But it's like, she seems like, of all the actresses I can think of, she's a shoo-in to play Harley Quinn. Like, she's perfect for the role, and yet it doesn't feel right
there's
when you actually
something
watch
just
her on screen.
kind
Yeah,
of
something's off.
I don't know if you told me that
Like-
before going in, but I do know that, like, in Suicide Squad, I was not 100% sold, and I thought it was because I was like, maybe she should put pants on, but that's clearly not the case because she wears pants in this movie. But I think maybe she's just like, it's like one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, it's too good to be true. Like if Nathan Fillion actually ever did play Nathan Drake in an Uncharted game, in an Uncharted movie, we'd be like, it was a nice try.
You know what I think it is? I think she needs to play the character closer to her portrayal in Batman the Animated Series.
I was going to say, I wonder if another problem, especially because you and I are like, we grew up with the animated series to the point of like her representation. One of my friends is like, the worst thing that DC ever did, and it might have been you, but I think it's another guy. The worst thing that DC did to Harley Quinn was to sexualize her. And I agree with that.
That was a bad decision on their part.
Like, I agree with that, and it kind of ruins the character a little bit. Like, we should not be like sexually attracted to Harley Quinn. That's weird.
I think that might have an effect. Here's what I think it is. I think Margot Robbie plays Harley Quinn kind of like Deadpool, where
in this movie
she's
specifically,
especially in this movie, but also in Suicide Squad. Like, we're the bad guys. It's what we do. You know, it's very like...
She's like every 80s co-op you've ever seen, Mr. J.
It's very meta. It's very winking at the audience. It's very like sassy and sarcastic. Whereas Harley Quinn isn't really like that. She's very earnest, very like weirdly pathetic to the point where you almost root for her because you feel bad for her. She's a character to be almost laughed at, not laughed with, you know? Like, this movie plays her as like, oh, I'm, you know, the smart alecky, fourth wall breaking anti-hero. I'm going to point out something funny so you can laugh at it. Whereas in everything else where I think Harley Quinn was successful and endearing, like she's the butt of the joke. Like it's like, she's trying to be Groucho Marx when she should be Mr. Bean.
Except one of the great episodes, and maybe it's because we had this setup of her, one of the great episodes is when she teams up with Poison Ivy, and it ultimately ends like almost tragically, where it's just like, oh, they work so well together, but like she can never really escape the Joker's hold on her. That's depressing. And maybe they needed more of that. Maybe they needed to portray her more as a tragic character than like Deadpool, but for women.
Yeah, because she is a tragic character.
Yeah. That was the other thing about this movie is like all of these characters, if they really wanted to sell the movie really well, they should have taken advantage, and they almost do, but they should have taken advantage of the fact that they're all outsiders. Like I think that's what they kind of tried hinting at a little bit. But if they make the whole theme of the movie that these are outsiders who keep trying to fit in to various societal, you know, into their societies, into their respective societies, I think the movie works a lot better because you have Harley Quinn who's like, you know, divorced from Joker, and she's trying to fit in with her, you know, roller derby people, and then she's trying to fit in with the gangsters when she's like, oh, it's only business. It's like, yeah, but you never conducted business to begin with. You have Montoya who's trying to fit in with the police department, but the police department sucks. Or you have Black Canary, who... Black Canary, I'm going to laugh every time I say it now. Who is, like, trying to fit in and, like, just keep a low profile, not comment on her mom. No character with tragic backstory. And, like, they're all outsider characters who kind of find themselves and come together. Like, why can't we just have a simple story about that? That would be perfect.
Well, if you go too hard on the fact that they're outsiders, that's going to confuse people when you release your Outsiders movie or TV show.
That's a good one. I actually was thinking of that when I was thinking about the outside, when I was thinking about calling them all outsiders. But yeah, because I mean, I don't know. It would have then they could have been like, they could have had that moment where it like pushes in on Harley Quinn and she's like, guys, we're all outsiders. They think we're all prey, but really, we're the predators. And then you could have had your, like, groaning moment where you summarize all of the themes of the movie in one simple sentence.
We're the bad guys. It's what we do.
Oh, God. All right, so one of the things that I liked was you were like, it's basically a Pixar movie. I've been fixated on that because the more I think about this movie, the more I feel like you're right, and yet I would say it's like a poor imitation of an animated movie. That's what I'll go with, because
I would say Pixar is to say that is doing an injustice to Pixar, because Pixar's more sophisticated than that.
Right.
It's like a DreamWorks movie.
It's like a DreamWorks movie, because a lot of the DreamWorks movies have all of those sort of like screenplay-y moments. All of those, the guy who wrote the book on screenplays, Sid, whatever his name is.
Oh yeah, it's very like Sid Field scripty type of stuff.
It's the Sid Field, we gotta hit these beats, because it has that moment where she like turns to it, it's like, it's only business, kid. And it's like, oh, this is the moment where it's supposed to be sad.
It has the moment of, like, in The Help, when the boyfriend is like, you're a loose cannon cop, Emma Stone. Turn in your badge. Writer. We're breaking up. You've gone too far. Low point in your character. Third act. Beginning now.
Everything's changed. You've gotten what you wanted, Harley Quinn and everyone else. Victor Zsasz. Like, so sometimes when we talk about movies, it makes me want to go back and rewatch it. And I didn't feel that way until I remembered the police shootout scene. And then I was like, yeah, I kind of want to go back and rewatch this movie now. But I was also thinking about it because, like, it's so weird that Victor Zsasz? Yeah. Zsasz is is in on the death of like the Huntress's family, who like talk about weird emotional roller coaster. It's like,
oh yeah, remember we were talking about, I don't know if it was last time or the time before, there was some movie where it's like you have the something that's set up, like a tease of like, oh, someone's dark past or whatever. And then you get the revelation later, and then there was some movie where you get the setup and the revelation like back to back.
Yeah, with Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs, yes. You get the setup and the revelation like right next to each other, so you have no time for any suspense to build. That was that whole thing with Mr. Zsasz. It was just like...
Yeah. Wait, you didn't see it coming?
No, I was just
really?
No, not at all. I was just
wow.
Oh, well, there you go. And then like the fact that it's like, oh, and Sionis was behind the whole thing. It's like, really? This is exactly like Steve Jobs, where he's like at the very end of the movie, Steve Jobs reveals his entire backstory that was never teased or asked for. It's like, I never knew my parents. I was adopted. I was abandoned. I was adopted, then abandoned, then adopted again. And my dad was the guy at the Middle Eastern restaurant that we just revealed existed 10 seconds ago. What a twist. And I'm like, oh.
Aaron Sorkin, you did not own that moment. Like, he wanted it so badly, but he did not get it. No, I thought that they had hinted that it may have been Zsasz. There was a couple of moments where I was like, oh, okay, I think Zsasz is the last guy there. And then it turned out to be him, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I thought it would be him. Yeah, but I agree. Well, and then that immediate, like, that depressing thing, and then, like, her training, and then it leads into, like, the taxi driver ripoff of her being like, I'm the Huntress. Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? Which, again, is great, and it's a funny scene, but it almost feels like you've undermined the moment by having that. Like, almost. But that's just kind of the nature of the movie. Because
well, that's the nature of movies in general now. You got serious moment, now we undercut it with comedy. Thanks, James Gunn.
James Gunn, thanks, Joss Whedon. With all that said, the moment where she kills that gangster and she's like, do you know who I am? He's like, who the fuck are you? I still was kind of like, that's funny. But I think more because Mary Elizabeth Winstead does a good job.
All right.
Oh my god, the person who played as Black Canary became a fan of Black Canary, like as part of her research. She played as Black Canary in the game Injustice 2. Like as research, that's awesome.
That's hilarious. I mean, that's actually kind of a good idea.
Yeah, that's it. She said that it became a fan, and it also influenced how she physically portrayed her depiction of the hypersonic scream, which was used once.
One time.
So depressing.
I know. Like, I don't get it, man. You have superpowers. Use your superpowers.
You know what, dude? This is what I'll say about Birds of Prey, because I think a lot of the stylistic elements actually, like, they jived for me for the most part. Like, the sort of non-linear first half of the movie worked a lot better in Birds of Prey than it did in Suicide Squad. But, like, I think that the main failing of it really is the screenplay. And they were just kind of, like, working their way to, like, make it not as bad as it originally was. Also, it would have been better if it was basically just the Warriors. Keep it simple. Make it the Warriors. I was hoping that's what this movie would have been. That would have been so fucking cool if it was just like...
That would have been nice.
That would have been awesome. That's what DC needs to do. They just need to rip off good movies. Like, they're going to be like Lawrence of Arabia, but with... I don't know enough DC superheroes, apparently. Lawrence of Arabia, but with Guy Gardner.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I'm wondering if that's what they're going to do with Wonder Woman 1984. It's just going to be like the book 1984, but with Wonder Woman and Chris Pine. My favorite of the Chris's.
To be... I feel like someone somewhere has like every big budget movie condensed into a single formula where you just have to plug in beats and then it just takes care of itself.
He lives in a bunker with like freaking Steven Spielberg's first camera and like the camera that Stanley Kubrick used to shoot Barry Lyndon. One day we'll find him and beat him up with it.
It's like, you know, the songwriter from
That's what I was making an allusion to, yeah.
Yeah, like that
but there's
guy.
a movie guy who does that.
It's the script writer, but he only writes scripts for like big budget blockbusters because they're all identical at this point.
Only successful ones. They found like a bargain basement version of the guy, and that's why we have Independence Day Requiem or whatever. Resurgence. It's like, oh no, you got to go back to the main guy. You want to know why you had Thor: The Dark World? Because you didn't hire me. Do you have anything else? Like, I really don't know what else to add about Harley Quinn.
I'm over Harley Quinn. I don't have anything else intelligent or interesting to say.
I don't either. But I enjoyed it. Like, I would say it wasn't horrible. I'm sticking to my guns. High fine, low witness.
It's a witness. Or no, sorry, it's fine.
It's fine. It's fine. It's like a 6. Yeah, Birds of Prey. A lot of similarities to Steve Jobs and The Help, I guess. The Birds of Prey. Is there anything good coming? I mean, aside from The Call of the Wild, is there anything good coming out in the next couple weeks? Dude, I'm telling you, The Call of the Wild looks awful, but in all the right ways. Like, it looks like the perfect made-for-DVD movie that you speed through and groan and make fun of with your friends.
It could very well be that.
I mean, it's too weird of a combination of elements. Like, it's just too weird that I'm
I don't know. It
excited.
doesn't look like much is coming out. We got The New Mutants, April 3rd.
Oh my god, that's actually coming out? The one with
It is actually coming out.
Starring everyone's favorite assassin, Maisie Williams?
Yes.
Okay.
You have Vin Diesel as Bloodshot, whatever the hell that is.
Bloodshot. Just like The Last Witch Hunter, and Riddick, and Triple X.
Oh, I know.
And
that
the
Invisible Man movie's coming out.
Fuck yes, dude. That looks good.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's going to be good, but...
My Spy, starring Dave Bautista as the comedy, is... is going to be coming out. The Hunt, which was controversial because everything is controversial now.
There's that Kumail Nanjiani and Issa Rae movie coming out. I think I'm pronouncing her name wrong. I think it's Issa Rae. But that one's coming out.
I don't know what that is.
The trailer's pretty entertaining, but I feel like Kumail Nanjiani is... I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but I feel like he's becoming his own genre of comedy, which is kind of worrying. I think he's funny.
But No
I
Time to Die comes out in a month and a half.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, we'll find out. What I'm sure we'll come up with something for the next episode.
Yeah, looking at everything that's at least Rotten Tomatoes is showing and coming soon, I'm only interested in No Time to Die and perhaps the SpongeBob movie. Sponge on the Run.
I'm actually kind of curious about that too. We should do an episode on it if it proves to be interesting, not necessarily good.
The original SpongeBob movie is really good.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's
I've
fantastic.
never seen
the one from like 2006.
The one that looks like a CG movie.
No. That's more recent. I've also heard that one's good too, but I have not seen it.
Oh my god.
So there's
maybe
Sponge
I need to
Out
catch
of
up
Water.
on my yeah.
You may have to, because Sponge Out of Water is the more recent one, which I've heard a lot of good stuff about, but I've not seen it.
Okay.
The SpongeBob movie is from like 2005 or 2006, and that movie is actually really, really good.
Oh my god. I actually really like the look and the aesthetic of this new SpongeBob movie that's coming out. That's actually why I want to see it. I really like the way it looks.
Okay.
Like it's kind of got like almost a claymation vibe to it.
Yeah.
It's just got a very interesting and unique look, which is one of the things I kind of enjoy about certain animated films. I mean, I'm pretty sure Into the Spider-Verse won the Academy Award for Best Picture or Best Animated Feature just because of the way it looked. Mm-hmm. So I'm down for that. When SpongeBob comes out, I'm down for that. But until that time, we shall wrap up this episode.
Indeed.
All right. Well, we just threw Birds of Prey under the wheels. This is horrible. What am I doing, dude? I'm falling all over my words.
Be sure to follow us on Facebook. Our website is underthewheels.wixsite.com/blog. Be sure to download the podcast from Apple Podcasts and rate it and leave a review. It's very helpful for kind of spreading the word and helping us get on the map. And our podcast is also available on... Let me check if it's on Spotify, because I feel like I've said it's on Spotify,
it's on
but
Stitcher.
I've never actually verified.
It's on Stitcher. I don't know if it's on Spotify.
It's on Stitcher. Under the Wheels Podcast @gmail.com is our email. So don't hesitate to send questions, comments, if you want to argue with us about anything.
Yeah, like if you really hated Birds of Prey.
Maybe one of these days we can do a Q&A show or something.
That'd be fun.
Or a mailbag sort of thing. I would enjoy that.
Yeah, I would too. That'd be cool. It'd be like a top 10 video, but different because it's questions. Yeah. You know what? I do have one last thing to say about Birds of Prey. Mm-hmm. It was really weird to see Rosie Perez back in a movie as like one of the central characters, but it was actually kind of refreshing too. Like I was like, oh, I haven't seen her in forever. So, yeah.
Who is that?
She played as Montoya, but she was also in...
okay.
Yeah, she kind of got she made her career out of playing like angry Brooklyn Latina girl, for lack of a better term. But it was kind of cool. But it was kind of cool to see her like back in this. So that's where I'll end my talk on Birds of Prey. Yes, as Gabe said, and as I keep forgetting, please follow us on all of the various social medias. Maybe one of these days we'll get a Twitter.
That's a dangerous game.
I know, but hey, it could bring us more listeners. Yeah, or, just cause everyone to hate us.
That's more likely.
Yeah, probably. Anything else?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. This was released in IMAX? Okay.
Wait, Birds of Prey was released in IMAX?
Yeah, apparently there was theatrical releases in IMAX. It's so weird. I'd love to see Ewan McGregor explode in IMAX. But just like on loop, just like a 2-hour montage of Ewan McGregor blowing up in IMAX.
That would be pretty cool.
That would be cool.
I want Ewan McGregor to be in better movies, man.
To be fair, Ewan McGregor has never really had a great track record of being in great movies. He's
No,
been in a
he
lot of good
hasn't.
movies, but he's also been in a lot of shit.
Yeah, he has.
Oh, Ewan McGregor. It'd be fun to have him on the show, though.
Ewan McGregor, hit us up.
Yeah, seriously. Under the Wheels podcast at gmail.com.
We
We'll
can't
get your
help with your
deets.
alimony, but yeah.
we could attempt to help with your self-image, but I highly doubt that will happen either. Oh, or your public image. Yeah. I think on that note, my name is Matthew,
I'm Gabe.
and you've just been Under the Wheels.
Yeah, I'm going to New York, not this week, but next week for vacation.
Oh, shit.
So I really do not want to get sick for that.
Just wash your hands like all day, every day.
And that's pretty much what I'm doing. They're so like dry and cracked.
It's like, my hands may be dry and cracked and look like velociraptors, but I made it to New York. How long are you going to be there?
4 days.
Oh, nice. You're going to see a show there? You don't strike me as a musical theater type of person, but, you know, you never know. Maybe catch To Kill a Mockingbird to see Atticus Finch own everyone.
Own everyone. Fucking Aaron Sorkin style.
It's written by him.
Oh, fuck. No.
Yeah. He did an adaptation. It started with Jeff Daniels, and now it's Ed Harris. Like, I kind of really want to see it with Ed Harris.
I don't understand how either of them would be a good Atticus Finch.
I can see
'Cause
Jeff
it's like-
Daniels. Like, he's like talking regularly, and then all of a sudden he goes into Dumb and Dumber mode and like goes onto the toilet. And,
It's like Jeff Daniels looks like a mushroom. How can he play Atticus Finch? And Ed Harris is like 1,000 years old. He plays
know.
he plays fucking Skullface from Metal Gear Solid in every movie now. How are either of them Atticus Finch? What the fuck kind of adaptation is this?
Well, it makes sense that Ed Harris is their father because all of the kids look like they're about 40 years old. So it makes sense that their
no.
dad looks like he's like,
So
120.
Is Scout like 40?
I think she's like probably in her 20s. I think that the actual like, in all seriousness, I think the actress is in her like 20s. But apparently it's been getting like, it got really good reviews because I see it all the time on like Instagram or Twitter, and they have the cutaway where Ed Harris is like, the importance of a character like Atticus Finch is blah blah blah, and I'm like, Ed Harris is a weird actor because I feel like he never like, he's so effortless in everything he does, but in general he's usually pretty good. Mm-hmm. So I find like, that's why I'm kind of curious, because I think it was Enemy at the Gates where he has to play like a Russian guy, and he just decides to not use an accent at all because he's Ed Harris.
Oh yeah,
and
he's
he
the
doesn't
bad
do
guy in
accents.
Enemy at the Gates.
Yeah.
Totally forgot about that.
But he's just that guy. Like, he's like, I'm so naturally good that I'm not going to bother with some superficial shit like learning an accent.
Apparently in the original run of the play, Scout Finch was played by a 42-year-old.
Oh my god. It's amazing. It's amazing in all the wrong ways.
I know, this is some best of the worst type.
Oh my god.
Like baffling shit.
I can just imagine, like, it's been a while since I've read To Kill a Mockingbird, but I remember there's that one farm boy who puts like maple syrup or whatever on everything he eats. I can imagine like a scene where Scout is just like owning him, like, oh, maple syrup boy or something like that. Like, because, like, what makes you better than me, Scout? Because I'm not eating maple syrup with my bacon. And then all of a sudden, like, Atticus Finch comes in and it's like, Scout, do you think you're, blah, 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 blah. And then owns Scout. Or like the moment where like the guy's drinking Coke out of a Coke can and not like brandy out of a Coke can. And like that guy owns Scout and she's just like, oh, I've been owned again. Like,
I'm waiting for like Boo Radley to own like Bob Yule or whatever.
Bob.
Or he doesn't stab him like in the book. He just verbally dresses him down.
He comes up with an insult so good it just sends Bob Ewell like spiraling out of control into death.
He just drops dead the way that like people in like Renaissance era literature could just drop dead suddenly. Or like in Victorian era books and plays where it's like, oh, she died of fright or something. She died of
ingrown toenail. She died. The best would be if they just got Robert Duvall to reprise his role of Boo Radley.
At his age.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck. He's not that much older than Ed Harris.
I know.
Or no, wait. Ed Harris is only 69.
Finished.